Oh my gosh, bro. It is on. It is on, first of all. So watch what you're saying, because they're all live streaming.
Can everybody hear me?
All right, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. It's great to be here with the best federal delegation in the country, especially right now as states across the country have senators and congressmen voting to raise costs and strip them of their basic rights and needs. We are grateful to have this team fighting for us each and every day, and I'm personally grateful that each and every one of these folks will pick up the phone whenever I or anyone else from the city needs them to do so. I spend a lot of time talking with my fellow brother and sister mayors from across the country, and I'm always shocked whenever we're all in D.C. and they ask me, are you going to go to the Hill to meet with your federal representation? I say, well, no. They're like, well, when do you meet with them? I said, well, whenever I want. Apparently, that's not common across the country for a mayor in a congressional delegation to have a great relationship. But official sit-downs like this one, the one we had today, are still critical to moving the ball forward, no matter the constant communication. They are an opportunity to discuss the work ahead and celebrate and recognize the progress that we've made together, including the ones that we've made in public safety. As I said to the team earlier, in particular, Senator Van Hollen and Congressman Fume, they were the first group of elected officials to buy into our comprehensive violence prevention plan and to invest into things like GVRS, and wanted to alert them, as they already knew, about the first 6 months of Baltimore being the best when it comes to homicides in Baltimore on record, and being down an additional 20% this year in homicides, 19% in non-fatal shootings. Of course, that's on top of a 20% decrease in 23 and a 23% decrease in 24. We want to continue to see that. Crime in Baltimore is down across the board this year. Robberies are down 30%. Carjackings are down 17%. Auto theft is down 37%. And we want to continue to see, as we said today, it's not, and I always say, not a cause for celebration, but recognition of where we are and where we have come, and the work that remains for us to go even further, and we will do it together. As long as we have this delegation, I know we will have congressional leaders fighting and investing in things that will make Baltimore safer. We're also seeing, finally, after years of being stagnant, progress on vacancies in Baltimore. Right now, there are fewer than 13,000 vacant properties citywide, 12,500 and something to be exact, after decades of that can being kicked down the road, and after 2 decades of being stuck at 20,000. We have a 15-year strategy to end vacancies in Baltimore that includes a $3 billion capital stack, with $50 million coming each year from Governor Moore and our partners at the state. This is a partnership with the city, with the state, with Bill, with GBC, the entire community of Baltimore, because we have to focus on these issues, because as we discussed today, we know all of this work is at risk. We have a federal administration that has already cut and plans to continue cutting programs to keep our city safe and our residents healthy. We're talking about, again, the largest cut to Medicaid in history, cutting $1.3 trillion in food assistance and health coverage, while giving the wealthy, the wealthiest of the wealthy, $1.3 trillion in tax breaks. All across this country, cities like ours are dealing with the fallout of these decisions. They won't be easy, but we will not be deterred. We will continue to make historic progress in reducing violent crime. We will continue to make historic progress in reducing vacancies in Baltimore. We will continue our historic investments into our young people, into education, into the infrastructure and systems that we know We need Baltimore needs to thrive and grow into the best version of herself, and with the continued support of the best federal delegation in the country, we will do just that, regardless of what is happening with the president and his administration. And with that, I will turn it over to our senior senator, Senator Chris Van Hollen.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Well, let me start really on behalf of the delegation. You're going to hear from each of us today, but I think we all agree that the mayor has provided extraordinary leadership here in Baltimore City. So we want to start this press conference the way we started our meeting by thanking you, Mr. Mayor, and your team for the extraordinary progress. And we are proud to be partners in progress with you, because I think we all recognize that we've got to work very closely together to make sure that the city succeeds, that the state succeeds, that our country succeeds. So thank you. And when it comes to public safety, as you indicated, we had a strategy. You had put together a plan. The federal delegation has worked to back you up and provide resources to help augment that plan. And we see what the results are. The huge drop in homicides, the drop in violent crime, drop in other categories. As you said, we will not be satisfied until we bring those numbers down even further, but we are on the right path. And that is the result not of accident, but of a strategy backed by resources. I do want to mention a couple other things where we've worked together, and it's wonderful to have my new partner. I think this is Senator Alston-Brooks' first meeting here in Baltimore City, so it's great to have here. We have a veteran here, Congressman Mfume, in terms of, he reminded us that his first meeting here was in 1972. 1979, sorry. And he's never slowed down since. This guy never stops. And of course, Johnny Oshevsky, having been a county executive, knows the challenges that are being faced, and it's wonderful to have him on the team. I want to mention a couple things, and that starting with the American Rescue Plan funds that were provided by the federal government in the middle of the pandemic. And I want to thank you and your team for putting those funds to good use. I know you've obligated 100% as required. I think you've spent about 72%, but as we go across the city, we've seen very positive results from those investments. We're also very pleased that the money is on track for the replacement of the Key Bridge. This was a tragedy for the city, for our state, really for the country. We're pleased that the federal government stepped up to make that commitment, and we're determined to keep that commitment on track as well. As the mayor said, we know we're facing challenges, but we are fighting every day to protect the city and our state and the country against the lawless actions coming out of the White House and the fact that they continue to withhold funds that have been duly enacted by the Congress, and some which actually were signed into being by the president. So we continue to see illegal withholdings. We're going to see the fallout from this bill that was passed, which is beautiful if you're a billionaire, but if you're anybody else in America, this is an ugly betrayal of a bill. But we are up to the task here in the city and in Maryland. We will make sure that we step up even when the folks in the highest office in the land are stepping back or trying to turn back the clock, and we will continue to move forward. That was our message. We, of course, talked about a lot of different pieces of that strategy. There are lots of elements to federal support for Baltimore City, but all of them have the purpose of trying to make sure that the city continues to move forward under the leadership of Mayor Scott and can realize its full potential. That is the goal we all share, and that's the goal of Federal Team Maryland. And thank all of you for being part of it. And I don't know, Mr. Mayor, you want me to turn it over?
Yes, sir.
Let me then turn it over to my new partner in the United States Senate, who is, having been a county executive, knows very clearly as well how decisions of the federal government impact what happens at the local government. Senator Alston-Brooks.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I do want to thank our senior senator. He's done such an amazing job. It's been a joy to be partners with him, as well as this entire team. Baltimore has a super super bad mayor. That's what I have to tell you. He is an incredible leader. Mayor Scott has done just an incredible job, and want to thank him and his entire team. It was a real pleasure to meet with his team today. I want to compliment him and really compliment all the leaders in Baltimore City who have just done a tremendous job. I also want to say how inspired I continue to be by Congressman Mfume, who's been a friend for many years. I first met in 1992. When he was working there as a congressman, and just have continued to be inspired by him. And so we are a team. And what I really want to communicate today is that we are working as a team to ensure that we continue to really attend to the needs of all of our citizens and residents. I think the mayor has done something that is really noteworthy in this moment, in that he has, I believe, remained really steadfast and fixated on the needs of the people of Baltimore City. No matter the chaos that is happening all around, the strategy that has really been employed here is one that I believe really does deserve so much credit. He's ensuring that the economic viability of this city continues to be at the forefront of the agenda. That viability, he understands, is connected first to the safety of the people who live here, that nothing else matters if you do not feel safe and if you are actually not safe in the place where you live. And so I think he deserves tremendous credit, as does the entire team, for driving down crime to the lowest place that Baltimore has seen in decades or maybe ever. It has been really amazing to watch. Focused as well on continuing to make sure that the investments are made in infrastructure. I'll continue to work along with our senior senator as well as the rest of the delegation as a member of the Environment and Public Works Committee. I am the ranking member on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and so we'll begin those hearings actually this Wednesday. And you can rest assured that we'll continue to fight that every single dollar that we can we'll be bringing back to continue to invest in the city. I'll continue to work as well on the Banking Committee, where we are focused on housing issues. And so I'm also really pleased and just really impressed with the work that's been already done in Baltimore around housing, not only eliminating the vacancies that are happening here, but a real strategy to continue to make sure that housing is affordable for every part of Baltimore. And we'll continue to work to make sure that that is the case. But I just really, again, want to thank this entire team for the work that they each do. As you know, the mayor, myself, and former County Executive Olszewski, we've been in some battles together, worked together during COVID, so we are accustomed to working as partners. Our federal delegation has done a yeoman's job, and we're going to continue to work to make sure, again, that we keep the promises that have been made. This administration may not be keeping its promises in terms of bringing down the cost of living for our families, but we are focused on the needs of our families, and this strategy that's employed is one I think is incredible, and we'll be doing everything we can to make sure it's successful. I'll be turning over the podium now to Congressman Mfume, and again, he is one of Baltimore's favorite sons. We remain so proud of his service to our city, to our state, and to our country over so many years. And so just want to hand it over now to Congressman Mfume.
Thank you, Senator Alsobrooks. It's a pleasure, obviously, to be here with both you and our senior senator, and to be here with Johnny O, my shotgun rider in the House. I know you don't remember stagecoaches, but every stagecoach had a shotgun rider. I told you I was old. Couple of things. I'm going to be deliberately redundant, so I hope that you would bear with me. Number one, we are here out of our profound respect and admiration and desire to work with Brandon Scott, the mayor of this city, who has come into office years back with a vision, was never deterred by it, continues to find a way to talk about the best of Baltimore and to fight back and to bring communities together and to stand before people who may not agree or those who do agree and argue why this city is still going to be its greatest no matter what, no matter who's in the White House and no matter who controls the Congress. That in and of itself is significant. Brandon, I told you, you're like my political godson. I want the best for you. I shoot straight, I play by the rules, and I tell you when I see things, and what I've seen is how you've taken this city, community by community, group by group, and forced us into a unit where we all now believe that the best days of Baltimore are those days in front of us. Thank you very, very much for that. Members of the press, you should know this was a great meeting with the mayor and with his team. We dealt with and listened to and learned about a number of issues. We were all familiar with the significant reduction in crime. And you can't say that enough, and I would just caution people not to think that this was this year versus last year and look at it in those terms. These numbers have been coming down every year since, and this violence reduction strategy clearly has worked. We talked about infrastructure projects here in the city and how they're going to be impacted by what's happening in the White House and what is happening in the Congress. We know that the community groups that are alive and well and working to do what they have to do can't simply do it alone, whether it's Elevate or whether it's the Baltimore Housing Commission or anything else. These are people who give every day and who need support. And we talked about also how we find a way in Washington where we are in the minority in terms of the House and in terms of the Senate to force issues, to slow down the bad things, and to continue to elevate things that mean so very, very much to all of us. My congratulations to the police commissioner for his work, the housing commissioner, and all the others that are part of this team. And Chris Van Hollen was right. It was 1979 when I first walked into this building and took a seat upstairs in the mayor's office. I was a young rebel-rouser, I guess. William Donald Schaefer was the mayor, and we argued and we fought and we went back and forth. And I've seen and worked with every mayor since 1979. The reason why I say that is not to say that one was good or one was bad. I say it because we've got one that is a true leader here and is inspiring people every day to be leaders themselves. And so when you go into communities and you see young people clamoring to meet the mayor, when you go to a nursing home and you see seniors wanting to touch his hand and to tell him what they feel, it's because they believe in him. And so we are here at a difficult time. You know, this administration has cut Medicaid funding by millions and billions of dollars. It's going to affect all of us, but it's going to particularly affect people here in Baltimore City. It's going to affect those of us who have relatives in nursing homes that won't have the ability to take care of them anymore. It's going to affect children, small children, pregnant mothers, and others who are trying to feed their children. And you know, this is where I draw the line with this administration. We can't punish children who are hungry because we don't like the politics of the city or the people or the parents. When a child cries at night, he's not crying in black or white or Asian or Hispanic. He's crying and she's crying in pain. And so the work to try to restore these funding cuts is going to be a tough, tough task. But it is something that all of us in the delegation welcome, and it is something that we are lockstep with in terms of working with this mayor. So thank you very much. It's my pleasure to bring up Johnny O, who all of you will know from Baltimore County, but he's so much more than that now. He loves the county, and he's loved the city, even though he was representing the county. And he's always found a way to work with people and to work things out. I'm particularly pleased to have him as my seatmate in the Congress of the United States and to be able to say to you, please welcome, not the county executive time, but please welcome the gentleman who is the congressional representative, Johnny O.
And what an honor it is to be the shotgun rider to Kwesi Mfume. Truly, I am blessed to be part of an incredible federal delegation. And I think we take for granted in Maryland just how integrated and how cooperative this delegation is for the interest of Baltimore, but also for the interest of our state. That is not something that is true across the rest of this country. In fact, it is quite rare. And so I am lucky to have an outstanding partner in representing Baltimore City in Kwesi Mfume, someone who has poured his soul and heart and life into representing this city in the same way that our mayor has poured his life into this city. I'm also grateful to serve alongside a former colleague in local government, and Angela Alsobrooks, now our United States Senator, and the dean of our delegation here in the Senate, the leader of our delegation here in Baltimore today, Senator Van Hollen. I had the great privilege of working very closely with Mayor Scott for 6 years when I was Baltimore County Executive. And I think it's no secret to anyone who knows anything about our state that Maryland only thrives when Baltimore thrives. And it's why I was so honored to work alongside Mayor Scott for our years in the Baltimore region. And it's why, as a member of Congress now, it is a great honor indeed to represent not just the county, but also the city on Capitol Hill. And it has been so rewarding to work alongside and see the work that Brandon and his team have accomplished. And the meeting today, I think, encapsulated a lot of that work and that passion in historic reductions in homicide rates, in historic reductions in vacancies across Baltimore City, in investments that are happening in public health and in community revitalization. Mayor, it is an honor to work alongside you in this, and I know I speak on behalf of the delegation when we applaud you for the leadership and tenacity you have brought. And I think it's a tenacity that we're going to all need. Fortunately, Baltimore is also a strong, resilient, caring city, and it is one of the many cities across this country that are deeply under attack by an administration who seems to relish heartless, cruel, and often illegal activity in its assault on the people of this country. And so we know that because of this administration here in Baltimore, we know because of the people of Baltimore, that with the support of our federal delegation, we're going to see our way through historic, and not in a good way, historic cuts to healthcare, the largest cut to healthcare in American history. We're going to see our way through the largest cut to food support in American history, the largest wealth transfer in American history that we've ever seen, where we're taking away from the working class and the middle class and giving it to the billionaire class. It's the largest growth in our debt at one time in American history. But that's something that we're going to work through, something that we're going to push back against, and in the end, something that we're going to make sure we keep winning on, because the people of Baltimore are worth it, the people of this country are worth it. And so we are grateful as a delegation to have you, Mayor, leading the charge here in the great city of Baltimore. We will continue to stand alongside you in the years ahead and continue to deliver for the people you represent and that we all have the honor of representing alongside you. With that, I will turn things back over to the mayor, I believe, for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Congressman. We will now move into questions, and while we're doing that, I see we've been joined by some of our fabulous young people, the future of Baltimore. Just wanted to recognize them.
If you have questions, please come to the microphone in the center. That way we can all hear. Thank you. All our members of media.
They're recording it, so.
Hello, Janae Wright, WMAR-TV News. I just wanted to ask if anyone had any comment about what just was announced today, which is that Maryland is joining 24 other states in suing the Trump administration for freezing $6.8 billion in education grants just weeks ahead of the next school year. Anyone have any comments about our state joining that?
Well, I don't want to speak for the Attorney General, but I know, or for us here in the city, listen, what you have seen in Maryland, what you see from Baltimore, what you see from other states and cities around the country is when in every chance that we can stand up for basic democracy, basic services, basic needs that American people need, where this administration is doing wrong and doing illegal things, we will do that. And it's just the latest example of that, because education, and we're better for that to come from than the state of Maryland and places like the city of Baltimore, where Thurgood Marshall himself is from. We would not have the education system that we currently have in this country. We're not for Baltimore. We're not for Maryland. So we have to fight for things like that.
I would only add, yeah, I applaud the state of Maryland and the Attorney General for filing this lawsuit on behalf of Maryland students against a lawless administration. And just to underscore the fact, these are funds that had been appropriated by Congress and signed off on by President. And now they're trying to freeze funds and take them away from kids and students. And so we will fight them. We will fight them in the courts. We'll fight them in Congress, and we need to fight them in communities all over our state and the country.
I just wanted to add, I hope it's obvious that based on past actions that I too support the actions of the Attorney General. This is the right thing to do. What we've learned over and over again, if we've not learned anything else in the last 6 months, is that we have to be on the offensive with this administration and not wait for the administration to put us on our heels. Some of you saw where it was decided that out of the blue, Baltimore was going to be deemed a sanctuary city. Even though we never said that, we never claimed it, we never wrote it. But it was a way to get us back on our heels, like this particular case is. And, you know, when they do that, because it's such a subjective designation, anytime they want to make us a sanctuary city, they will just say, you're one. So we have to push back. This is an effort legally to do so. I think the mayor is right by underscoring the work of Thurgood Marshall and others who did not take this kind of stuff lying down. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor Scott, I'm Brenda Wintrow with the Baltimore Banner. Hello. And I am wondering if we have a sense of how much of the GVRS funding that comes from the federal government will be impacted and what that will mean for the program going forward.
Well, as of right now, none, because we have the best federal delegation in the country, and these folks are going to continue to do everything they can to support that. But this is why we built the strategy the way it is, that we don't rely overly on one source of funding or the next. We have federal, we have state, we have local, obviously, we have philanthropic dollars going towards it, because we know this strategy is too important for the city for it to fall just in one bucket.
Hi, Mayor Scott. Carson Swick with the Baltimore Sun. Obviously, Baltimore's crime trends have been a big theme today. I was wondering how much credit you would give to yourself and GVRS for that versus the efforts of other state leaders such as Ivan Bates. City leaders, I should say.
So I guess you had it right. It's the state's attorney, not the city attorney. You had it right. So again, we have to understand. So, Carson, I know you're new to Baltimore, so let me just explain to this. We are a team. All of us are a team. Despite some folks trying to point fingers or pick winners or losers or pick reasons or not, we're a team. How this works in Baltimore is that I am the chief executive. It is actually law that I, as the mayor of the city, have to develop the city's comprehensive violence prevention plan. I direct the police officers to go out and do their work. I direct the community violence intervention workers to go out and do their work. When it comes to prosecution, any prosecution done in the city of Baltimore by the state's attorney's office for a gun offense, for drug organizations, for murder, for shooting, for robbery, for carjacking, comes from where? The Baltimore Police Department. And who do they work for? We all depend on each other. Every single case that the state's attorney gets, and they're being able to prosecute those gun cases, those murder cases, those robbery cases, because unlike in the past, we aren't inundating them with silly things like they were doing in the past, where we had our police officers focusing on loitering and people outside urinating and all of these things, attacking the public health crisis of overdose and addiction as it was criminal. Then they are now getting better, higher quality cases, which allows them to get the convictions that they are getting. All of us play a part in this, but I would just say, knowing where you are and where you work for, who you work for, if homicides were up 20%, you wouldn't be asking me if the state's attorney was responsible. You would be saying, Mr. Mayor, what are you going to do? So that is how it works in the city. We're a team. As we laid out at the beginning of this year, where you had myself, the governor, a member from the state's attorney's team, the U.S. attorney, the ATF, the FBI, community violence intervention workers, community members, people from parole and corrections. That is how this works. But all of us work underneath that plan, and every single case that's prosecuted in this city is done through the hard work and on the backs of my police officers, those women and men who do that work, who put their lives on the risk, who build those cases. And I will not allow you or anyone else to disrespect that work.
Thank you. Another question for Senator Van Hollen. I was just wondering if I could get your thoughts on the Abrego Garcia case and where that all stands now. Obviously, the Trump administration has said they want to deport him again.
Right. So the Abrego Garcia case, and for those who have not followed every detail of the case, this is the Marylander who was essentially grabbed by Trump administration government agents and disappeared to El Salvador, where they put him in a gulag and said that he would never come back to the United States ever. Fortunately, the Supreme Court of the United States, by a 9-0 decision, you don't see many of those, said that the administration, had violated his due process rights, and everybody who lives in America, under our Constitution, is entitled to due process. Right? They cannot have their liberty taken away by the government without due process of law. So he is now back here in the court system, as many of us argued he should have been from the very beginning. Judge Zinnes, a Maryland Federal District Court judge, had a hearing on Thursday where she was very clear that the Trump administration needs to be straight with the court. There have been people who were fired by the Trump Justice Department because they would not lie to the court. There was a whistleblower action filed in this Kilmar Abrego Garcia case a number of weeks ago. And the whistleblower has lots of internal evidence and email showing that because he wanted to tell the court the truth, he was fired by Attorney General Bondi. That undermines our entire system of justice. So I'm glad it's now before the courts. It's also in a federal court down in Tennessee. But I'm very glad that Judge Zinnes is trying to hold the administration's feet to the fire in the sense that she is trying to make sure that they uphold the law. That has been our goal all along.
Thank you.
Hi, with Channel 13, and my question's about federal workers and what can reasonably be done to help them, those who are losing their jobs, and we're looking at perhaps another wave now that the Supreme Court has given the green light and the state has a very tight budget. So what can be done to help those federal workers who are losing their jobs in our state?
Well, let me just first say that all of us, I think, have been just devastated by the targeting of federal workers. The federal workers of our state are patriots, the men and women who we've all had an opportunity to interface with. And I would dare say this delegation, unlike any delegation across the state, has really seen the disparate impact on the state of Maryland. Our constituents live here, so they're the ones we see there on Capitol Hill who have lost jobs by the tens of thousands. And it should be clear that they're not losing their jobs because they're incompetent. They're not even losing their jobs because of waste, fraud, or abuse. They're losing their jobs because this president has decided that it's important to give tax breaks to billionaires. Now, having said that, there have been a number of of lawsuits that have been filed. Some of these lawsuits we have seen have been successful. We have joined in helping, in many instances, the lawsuits that have been filed. We've seen some that have not been successful. That has been, to date, one of the most successful routes we've seen is the lawsuits. Now, having said that, the reason that a meeting like the one that we just had today with the mayor is really important is we want the public to know that we will be working strategically across the state to ensure that we are helping not only those who have lost their livelihood through our federal workers, but we're seeing across the state people have had their livelihoods devastated because of this administration. It's a part of a pattern. You've seen not only the firing of these federal workers who, again, are the people who ensure that the weather service operates correctly, the ones who are working at NIH, who have been working on research to ensure that we have cures to diseases. These are honorable people whose lives have been upended for no reason. But we're going to continue to work to make sure that housing, that we do everything we can to provide the kind of benefits that allow. All of us have hosted job fairs together. We're going to continue to do that. We'll be working with utility companies to do what we can to provide some relief from some of the increasing energy prices people are suffering, and we're working with the energy companies assistance. We're going to do everything in our power, not only to assist our federal workers, but we're going to keep our eye on the ball. The one thing this administration hopes that people take their eye off is how this administration is hurting everyday, hard-working people, not only in Maryland, but all across our country, working class, middle class people who now have not seen anything this man promised. We've not seen the cost of groceries come down. We have not seen the cost of housing come down. We now have seen people will be losing their insurance coverage and their health care. It is unconscionable. This is a really ruthless administration. So we're going to be working not only on behalf of federal workers, but workers all across the states who will see their families' lives devastated, who will see again that they lose Medicaid. How ruthless is it? 40% of the people who benefit from Medicaid in our state are children. So we're cutting their health care, we're cutting their education. I mean, what are we looking at? We're looking at something, again, that is all intended to benefit billionaires, and we're going to work like everything against every single effort that has been put forward to disrupt the lives of hardworking people of our state. And you know what? We're going to win. In the long run, we're going to be suffering for a moment here. But what I want people to understand is we're in a season, we're going to fight like everything against it, and we're going to succeed in the long run in making sure that we fix everything this administration breaks.
I am the ranking member on the House of Representatives Committee on Federal Workers and the federal workforce. And if we are fortunate in flipping the House of Representatives, I'm looking forward to chairing that committee. Because I've got a special relationship, as do all of us, with federal employees. They're our neighbors, they're our friends, they're people that we've grown up with, they're people who are in need, there are others who are making contributions. They're not nameless and faceless, as the Trump administration would have so many people leave. They are real people, 23,000 alone in my congressional district. And so while we have put forth amendment after amendment to push back on some of this, we lose because the majority, numerically, is on the other side. None of them want to break from Donald Trump and from this administration. So we continue to fight. We continue to put forth resolutions expressing a sense of the Congress. We urge the private sector and privately and publicly commend the private sector for stepping in to the extent that they can. But that's a lot of people. And the rumor is that they're all in Washington. Well, 80% of the federal workforce lives outside of Washington, D.C. So it's another one of those things where you come up with creative, false information and you give it to people in hopes that they will understand it. But I talk with these people from IRS. I talk with people who are federal employees at the Veterans Administration who fought and given everything they could for this country only to find out that they're terminated without due cause. I've seen what it's like with people from Social Security not knowing what's going on, and all of us here have been out on the picket lines with these employees. We've been out in the streets, we've been at rallies, and we continue to do that because we want them to know that they're not alone. And I agree with what Senator Also Brooks was alluding to, and that is that no lie lasts forever. Our job is to hold on and to hold out and to make sure that we're able to turn things around.
And I would just add that in addition to the job fairs, we've been reaching out. Our Office of Employment Development has been working with folks. We're trying to hire as many of them as we possibly can. We obviously have vacancies in the city and trying to match some of our former federal employees who, again, were let go, not because they were doing a bad job, not because their work wasn't critical to not just Marylanders, but to American citizens, right? We have to, again, state what's happening. When you think about the cuts to the weather service, people's lives are being put at risk just so billionaires can have more money, right? That is the most disgraceful part of this. And these folks were working. They served there. Imagine being a veteran who literally went out, put your life on the line for a country, come back, get a job, doing that again through service, serving your federal government, only to have that job cut. What a spit in the face of someone who could have died serving this country, and we're going to hire as many of them as we can here locally.
And Mayor, just one more question. I had spoken to the mother of Dante Melton Jr., who died in police custody, and she had expressed she has faith in you and your administration to try to get her some answers as far as why the medic didn't arrive, issues with the CAD system. I know it's very early and the Attorney General is looking into this, but,
Yep.
but is there anything you could say to her, or, what are you looking into as far as this case and some of those possible failures?
Yeah, well, first, I will never get out ahead of any of the Attorney General's investigations. We have to allow him to do his investigation and work without any interference from me or anyone else. And as I said initially in that case, we will give every piece of information and really work with him and his team fully, 100%. There will be no issues there to allow him to do that work. And for her and her family, the first thing is that my heart is with them. You're talking about a tragic event that happened, someone that lost their life. And for us, as we go through the investigation, as we determine what things could happen there, whatever has to happen. If it's accountability, it will happen. She has my word that we will do whatever is recommended with the Attorney General and working with our folks, but that we will also work to continue to build systems, right? We were just talking, this federal delegation helped to invest in our 911 diversion, which is one of the largest 911 diversion programs in the country. And we still know we have so far to go when dealing with behavioral and mental health, not just in Baltimore, but in this country. And that with the cuts that we're all staring down the barrel of, it's going to hurt that work even more and not allow people to get the help that they need when they need it. But she has my commitment that we will do everything in our power, not just to get her the answers, but to also work to make sure we have a better system so we don't have things like this happening over and over again.
Mayor, Phil from WBAL Radio. Just a question about the mass overdose from last week. Any update on the investigation that it's concerned about?
I couldn't hear you for a second. The mass what?
The mass overdose from last week. Any
yes.
update on the police investigation and what you folks are looking at? And also to that point, are you concerned that the cuts coming from Washington could jeopardize the work that you do, not only in overdose but in treatment?
Yes, I think that. Listen, first, there are no further updates on the investigation period. You know me; I am going to allow my fabulous detectives and officers to do their work, and they will go out and do just that, and make sure that we hold everyone accountable as possible, and turn them over to our partners in the state's attorney, the attorney general, the U.S. attorney, all of those folks as appropriate as the police department always does. But when you talk about the cuts that are coming to Medicaid, to Medicare, all of these things, absolutely, it's going to impact every single part of the medical system. And when you talk about treatment for addiction, behavioral health, and substance abuse treatment specifically, we have to understand, as much as investment that we all hear consistently coming from our neighbors, from our family members about the traditional need for better health care, it's 10 times worse for when you're thinking about those things. So as we continue to try to grow, then we're a little blessed here. Our fabulous city solicitor was able to go out and get us some funds to be able to help those kind of things grow in the city. And we're going to remain focused on continuing to drive down overdoses, because I want everyone to be reminded that even with the unfortunate incident that we had last week, we are seeing overdoses go down and decline here in Baltimore City. But every fabric of life of every average American citizen is going to be impacted by this reckless nature of this administration. But what we have to do, along with our fabulous federal delegation, and remains focused and do what we can at our level to make sure that we're improving lives.
And one more question about the Key Bridge. I know that funding has been essentially untouched for the federal folks there. Are you folks doing anything to fast track the bridge, and could we see it done earlier than anticipated? That's it.
I don't know that we want to fast track it as much as we want to make sure that it's safely done and correctly done, because you only get one bite at that apple. So no, not on the House. We have pretty much followed the process. That was a great victory for this state and for this delegation. And the fact that this administration cannot get to those funds is significant also, but not trying to fast track it. We're allowing the engineering studies and other things to be in place and underway.
Hi, I promise this will be quick. Thank you all for your time. I'm Kate Amar from WBAL-TV. And Mayor Scott, I have a question about an eye-opening investigative piece that our station ran last week about the Maryland National Guard gun range, which directly impacts policing and police officers being able to do their jobs. Do you have an update for us on what was revealed last week, that the National Guard no longer allows BPD to use its shooting range for training.
Yeah, listen, I think that we've talked, I haven't talked to you about this, Kate, but I've talked to your colleague Dave about this. This is an issue that got raised to me, that I raised directly with the governor and his team, and I'm 100% positive that this issue will be resolved and BPD will be back at the firing range training and making sure that our officers get out on the street, which we all know the residents of the city